Sonny Styles has finally settled into a position at Ohio State, and now he's coming back to spend one more year at it. The former five-star recruit from Pickerington, Ohio, started his career as a safety his first 2 years, was a starting nickel in 2023, and then moved down to linebacker for 2024, where he recorded 100 tackles, 11 TFLs, and 6 sacks and 5 pass breakups. And now he will return as the lone returning starter at linebacker with Cody Simon graduating this year. Stefan, I think this is actually a pretty big deal for both sides. I think Sonny having another year of being a linebacker and getting comfortable under his play, bringing back the guy who is your returning leading tackler on a defense who was only guaranteed to bring back one player, and that's Caleb Downs at safety. I think that's why it's a big deal, but also we're not really sure what the schematics of this defense are going to look like in 2025. So to have one guy back at least, maybe you're pairing him with Arvell Reese. We're not really sure what position CJ Hicks is going to be playing next year. Having a guy with as much experience as Sonny Styles brings to the table, along with the talent that's going to be in the room, I think is probably one of the bigger wins of the offseason for Ohio State.
Yeah, I think this was definitely the biggest, lingering question in terms of the guys declaring versus not declaring, just because of what Sonny would mean to this defense as a whole in terms of leadership, right? He's a guy who, when Cody Simon early in the year, I can't remember which game it was. I think it was one of the non-conference games that Cody Simon didn't play.
Yeah.
We kind of started to see Sonny get the green dot on his helmet, being the one that was getting the communication from the coaches into his headset, communicating with the team, what the play is. And let's not act like that's a small thing either, because the biggest thing after the Oregon game, when the defense made that shift, Jim Knowles was talking about we needed to communicate better. We needed to get set quicker. Like it wasn't so much execution as it was being ready for the snap. So that stuff is important. You get back a player who's comfortable doing that, who knows that role specifically. That's massive. I think Sonny Styles is an outstanding player. If you want to nitpick the coverage stuff, we saw a bit in the playoff, especially in that game against Texas. Teams exposed. He's got a whole offseason to work on that. We kept forgetting throughout the year that he is a guy who is new to the position because he was so good. And there were some games where you're like, oh, that didn't look crisp. And you're like, oh, wait, this is a new position for him. It's okay. There's going to be a bit of a learning curve. He was outstanding. I think I probably circle him right now as the top candidate to get the Block O, just because of leadership, experience, having been in Ohio State. All this stuff lines up for you to think that, okay, that's a guy who could wear the Block O. There's other candidates, so we'll see how that transpires. That's more of a prediction than it is anything. But I think getting him back is massive for so many reasons, on and off the field. You can never have too many guys back from a team that just won a national championship. And we were looking at this defense thinking to ourselves, is Caleb Downs going to be that only guy? A guy who's, and as outstanding as Caleb Downs is, it's only going to be his second season at Ohio State. Now you got a guy like Sonny who's been around, who understands Ohio about as well as anyone on this roster. We know what Pickerington means to Ohio State and what Ohio State means to people at Pickerington. You can't overstate the importance of getting him back.
And there's also an element, you got to remember, he's technically supposed to be going into his junior year. He's originally a 2020 class member who reclassified and showed up a year early. So his physical development is still going on. And he already looks, listen, he looks the part. He's looks, a dude. He's passing the eye test, very much so. So another year of physical transformation for a guy who's technically only 20 years old, another year spent at being a linebacker will do him some good, where sure, he's got some eyes right now, but this is a guy who could go from, I've got some eyes for the 6th round to I've got some eyes for the 2nd round, maybe even 1st round, depending on what they decide to do with Sonny Styles in 2025. But a major piece coming back for Ohio State in its 2025 roster. They'll at least have 2 returning starters on their defense with he and Caleb Downs. Get the text 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. And we'll continue to talk about this on Buckeye Talk, so go listen to that wherever you find podcasts. And if you love this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do a lot of other stuff. We're not always floating heads either. We're sometimes on scene for stuff. It's just right now it's easier to be floating heads. For Stefan Krajisnik, I'm Stephen Means. The floating heads will not float away.